What's up, everybody? Welcome to the CanesInSight Daily Podcast, powered by Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. It's Tuesday. That means Miami record holder Ahmad Richards going to be on the show. Always good to talk to him, get his insight on the FSU game, a game that he has participated in, a game that he has won, a game that he has knocked people out in. So it'll be fun to talk to him. A lot to break down with that one. Big announcements from Mario Cristobal, Shannon Dawson, Corey Heatherman about JoJo Trader, Jordan Lyle, their availability. We'll get into all of that and just break it down, man. First, got to talk about some folks that always will break down your case. That is Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. If you or someone you care about has been injured in an accident, you could be entitled to significant compensation. Dial 1-800-747-FREE, 1-800-747-3733. Take back control of your life with Anajar and Levine. Pete, hop in here.
Good morning, D.
What's going on, man? How we feeling?
Doing well, man. Always love these Tuesdays with Ahmmon, and got a lot to talk about. We started getting to the Florida State matchup a bit last week with him. Didn't dive in fully, but we have a lot more to dissect now that we have that Virginia game to look at. So excited to hear his thoughts today.
Yeah, the Virginia game, a lot different than the Alabama game. Watch both. I mean, it was really like two different teams. So we'll talk about that. I will tell you, Pete, that that Virginia offense, the way they ran the ball, watching FSU, they really were standing around like some potted plants you might have in your landscape with OrchidManFlorida.com. That is Orchid, ORCHID, manflorida.com. Landscape artisan, working from the Keys all the way up to Palm Beach. One-stop shop. If you have a commercial property, residential property, want to get your landscaping done, they'll do the pretty work and the dirty work, sprinkler repair, irrigation, tree trimming, tree stump grinding, you name it, fertilizing, maintenance. They will do that, as well as connecting you with the best plants, flowers, everything else in the region and making it look beautiful, man. So you don't want to manage the whole project. You want someone to be the quarterback on your landscaping, make it high-end. OrchidManFlorida.com, ORCHID, manflorida.com. But yeah, like that's the big takeaway I had from the FSU game, Pete, is like that Virginia is their effort level and their tackling was abysmal going against, I mean, a Virginia offensive line that was missing three players and really not a spectacular unit.
Only one starter.
All right. Well, it was not Miami's offensive line. Let's put it that way. The quarterback was injured and threw 3 picks. We like him. You know, we like Chandler Morris, but it's not like he was in top form physically or just decision-making wise. And the reason they lost, to me, is that their effort was not there. They did not run to the ball. They did not swarm. They did not tackle well whatsoever. They just didn't look physically present. My concern in this game, my only concern, besides injuries and weird stuff, is if Miami does not, this is Miami's first road game, just like that was FSU's first road game, and they didn't show up. Alabama didn't show up to their road game against FSU. Is Miami going to show up to this road game, which is their first road game, emotionally, physically? They've been playing with such violence, swarming to the ball. If they can do that and maintain that intensity against FSU, I think it's going to be a bloodbath. Now, if they don't show up with that intensity, you saw what happened with Alabama. The more talented team got jumped on, playing from behind, and FSU's got the momentum. They're doing all their trick plays, all the bells and whistles. They're eating the clock, and you're in trouble. So that, to me, is really the whole game. If Miami can bring the intensity, I really don't see any way that FSU can win because they just don't have a lot of talent. But if Miami doesn't show up, the less talented team can win, as it did when Florida State beat Alabama by 2 touchdowns at home.
Right. That's what I was going to say. I think every Saturday, these guys are 18 to 22 years old, sometimes a little bit older than that in Beck and Mesidor's case, for example. But there's a lot of volatility when it comes to which team's going to show up. Fortunately, as we've talked about, and I think it's one of Mario's top traits as a coach, these guys come ready to play. Like, it's one thing to say things happen throughout the course of the game. I get it. But in terms of coming out with the right energy, with the right mindset, generally his teams at Miami, and When I said this the other day, someone pointed out, well, he laid a couple eggs against Utah. The second time, I have a feeling the team knew he was out to Miami. So I don't count that one as part of the equation. But generally, his teams don't go out and, lay an egg. So there's no reason to think that rivalry game, first game on the road, obviously a different environment, but I think this team from the mental standpoint is well prepared and led by a guy. Again, you just see Mario's demeanor coming out. You see some of the pictures pregame against Florida, for example, against Notre Dame, and it's a very serious attitude, right? And I think that you got to give him a ton of credit for. We talk about the recruiting and the culture, but part of the culture is having guys ready to play, and these guys are just very serious about how they approach things. This isn't a laughing matter for the coaching staff or anyone on this team. You don't see the same sort of dancing you saw on the sidelines previously. You don't see any of that stuff because it's next play mentality. So I know going on a bit of a tangent there, but that's just a thought of mine heading into this one, because I think he's shown it time and time again. His teams will be ready.
Yeah, no, I think you said it very well. By the way, shout out to Destin Dixon on every single day. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate when you get the people that you don't see every day in the chat just kind of saying what's up. Appreciate everybody that watches the show and listens. So I agree with what you just said. That as far as the personality of the coaching staff, I'd also go one further and say just the personality of the players. I mean, Ruben Bain does not strike me as the kind of guy to take games off. I know he had some bad games last year, which there was a lot more to do with system, with body, with injury, with those kind of things. But as far as like intensity, I mean, Ruben Bain tries to kill people every single time he gets out there. He was tweeting about FSU during the Virginia game, kind of just laughing at them and talking about how he wanted to smash them next week. He had the rolling emojis of laughter and saying "you're next" after that Virginia loss. So,
I was a bit surprised about that, honestly.
I mean, he's been doing that this year. Haven't you noticed that with the binder and everything he's doing? Like,
a lot of that's been after the game, though, that he posted. That's why. Listen, he's earned the right to do it. I just that was something that I thought was a little bit like old school.
He reminds me right now
in the last 5 years.
Well, like Jerome Brown, right? Jerome Brown before our time, but obviously we've watched the old games on ESPN Classic and all that. He was like that, So I think Ruben Bain's, like you said, old school in that way. Old school Kane. And Aaron Donald, probably someone he grew up watching. He was kind of like that. I remember him always kind of bringing the intensity and bringing the taunts and stuff like that. So I don't see Ruben Bain letting up here like a Mo Touré. I don't really see letting up Wesley Bissain. These are older players too, Jacoby Thomas, right? So I think the fact that you have older guys, they're maybe going to be a little less shell-shocked. But I got to be honest, when I rewatch that Alabama-Florida State game getting ready for this week, I'm disgusted by Alabama. I mean, people are saying Alabama's a top 5 team. I can't, and I know first game.
I did. I said that.
Oh, yeah, you said it. We talked yesterday, but and look, I don't remember, but we all know that Miami, when they won their first championship, got blown out their first game by Florida, and then they came back and won the rest of their games. So first games can be weird. I will acknowledge that. But that performance by Alabama was disgusting, just as I watch it. 87 rushing yards, and they allowed 230 rushing yards, and just their effort level was, I mean, if Nick Saban was probably watching that game smiling, knowing that his legacy gets better every time that team suits up. It's just a disgusting way to play, in my opinion. They passed the ball fine. They had protection. Although, on top of that, I should say, Caden Proctor, 74, who caught the pass last week, he must have had money on FSU in that game. I mean, somebody needs to check his gambling history because he played horrendous in that game. Markel Bell, if he plays half that bad, people will be calling for his head. And I don't think he will. I think he's going to dominate. But like Caden Proctor.
So it was nothing that Florida State did.
I mean, Virginia didn't have that problem. The defensive line didn't get one sack against Virginia. They had 2 sacks from a blitzing safety, and that's it. And they threw it a ton of times too. Obviously the box score of that one. Pull it up here now. But Caden Proctor to me is just a low effort player based on what I saw in that game. That was disgusting. I really was disgusted by Alabama when I watched that. I'm not buying stock in them at all. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they get it over the course of the year, but I hate that style of football. It's funny. we saw Alabama for so many years with that boring style, and we were like, oh, I can't wait till these guys are done. All this running and just stopping the run and being physical. But it's like, man, when that goes away, even if you have great receivers, and they have excellent receivers, probably the best in the country along with Ohio State, and their quarterback, I think we both like. But when you remove that style of football, they're wearing the wrong helmets. Like, they belong in the Pac-10 the way they play. So, or the Big 12 or one of these loser conferences. So I don't know. I mean, look, I'm glad because I hate Alabama like everybody else, and I want them to fail. But yeah, watching that game makes me think about how far Alabama's fallen, more so than how much FSU's jumped up. But again, with that said, there's no guarantee that we play with that same effort. We've seen stinkers. I think you were right that we haven't seen as much emotionally flat performances, right? That's not been the problem so much as where Mario team goes out with just no energy and no heart, at least not since the first year. It's been more execution issues. But yeah, I don't know. I'm like fired up because I watched it this morning, but it's like, man, who was that team wearing the crimson uniforms? Because they looked horrible to me.
Yeah, I mean, Ty Simpson was his first start.
But so if you're trying to protect your quarterback, how the hell do you run for 89 yards in that game?
I agree that the game did get out of grasp for them. It felt like the way the game was going, and they probably felt like they needed to, chase it a little bit. But
you look at Virginia by comparison, obviously there was more plays. It was a double overtime game, but 211 yards rushing, 4.4 yards an attempt. So
we have our guest here.
Let's bring him on, baby. The one, the only, the all-time leader, freshman, receiving yards, the man who put someone underground, blocking in this rivalry, probably maybe the most famous block in the history of this rivalry, definitely the most memed, the most gifed block. They use it during rivalry week every single time. If we beat them, they'll probably post that again all over, trolling FSU Twitter. Ahmad Richards, how we doing?
Doing good, man. How we doing? Pete, D Money.
But when you hit a block like that, like the one in the FSU game, is it like hitting a good golf swing or baseball swing and you don't really feel it and the ball just goes flying, or did you feel it?
Yeah, no, I mean, I felt it in my neck, but funny enough. But it was one of them hits like the adrenaline is going, you know what I mean? I remember vividly like going into halftime because it was right after halftime and we couldn't do nothing on offense. We're struggling. The defense was getting stopped. So I was kind of like just pissed, like, what are we doing? Like we keep getting chance after chance and we're just out here playing. So I just coming out, just, took advantage of the opportunity. And, I like to say that early in the game, he told me to, I got a block in the back earlier because he turned his back on me when I went to go hit him. He told me to hit him in the front. So I think I did a pretty good job of, making sure it was legal in the chest, So yeah, man, it feels good though. I'm not gonna lie. There's nothing like a crackback in a rivalry game. Like, honestly, it was crazy. People started cheering, as a kid was hurt. Like, it was wild. It was wild. It was wild.
So, Ahmad, talk the rivalry game. One thing we talked about just before you jumped on was like, when you watch FSU on film against Alabama at home, right, and then against Virginia on the road, the energy level is just completely different. The way guys were moving, the way the pads were popping. I mean, it was obvious just from a fan perspective watching that game. It was like two different teams with the same players. How real, for those of us who have been in the stands, how real is the emotional part of college football at this level?
It's very real because the expectations are so high. Like, all week long you're hearing about even if you try to like weed it out, you're gonna hear it, right? Everyone's on social media, Instagram, or you may know someone, a friend, girl, whatever, that talk about the game, right? So the emotions, the build up is like real. That's why a lot of times you see like this pregame scuffles, right? Because guys just can't hold it. Like right now, I can guarantee you we're most likely, playing the Seminole war chant all practice. So you're hearing that every day. You're hearing about the quarterback and how he's athletic. And so guys like, Ruben Bain are hearing this all week long. And it's just like, you ready to just end it, right? You just want to hear, you want the noise to stop. So I do think a lot of emotions, but I do think the better team can always control those emotions and still like play within their scheme and execute the plan, because you can't get too high. You don't want to come out flat at the same time, right? You got to have a little edge to you, but you want to have that control, like chaos. That's what I would call it. Controlled chaos.
Ahmon, we did our show last Friday, just you and I, and that was pre-FSU Virginia. We're a few days removed from that now. What were your overriding thoughts on that one?
Talking about Florida State, Virginia, right?
Yeah.
Honestly, not really surprised. I was surprised that it was so high scoring, but I think I said on here, like, I think I said, you can't, like, they're focusing on us and we're hearing about their fan base and they're, talk about the big game. And it's like, they got to play Virginia on the road at the end of the day on a Friday night, so we'll see. And Lord and behold, they went out there and got popped. And what I saw from them was like, they tried to execute their game plan, but I feel like they tried to come out and be vanilla and it backfired on them. And when they realized like they're going to be in a shootout, I think that's when you start seeing their playbook like literally get used to the max. Like now you're seeing jump passes, like stuff that Malzahn would use against like Alabama when he was at Auburn at the end of the season, right? Those like few trick plays you had, and then he had to bring it out because, I mean, they still lost anyway, but that's what it seemed like to me. And they seemed desperate on the ropes. But more shockingly, I was more shocked that their trenches weren't as physical as what people were trying to tell us when they played Alabama, but honestly, I wasn't completely shocked by the loss. I even said on a space, like I was in a space with some of the fans, and I was like, Virginia gonna pop you guys, and I wasn't really saying it trolling because I truly don't think Florida State's a dominant team. Like, I think they're a team that went 2-10, and people were shocked that it beat Alabama, which can happen at the first game of the season. But overall, like, there's still like you don't go from 2-10 to like 12-0. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that's very realistic. And we're starting to see that early excitement start to simmer a little bit. And now they're just have to execute and get back. Like, they're not playing with like that high emotion like they came into the season, like, that back against the wall, prove everyone wrong, 2-10, the world was trolling us for a year. Like, I don't see that edge. So at least in the Virginia game, I didn't see that type of edge that they had. So shout out to Virginia though for getting the dub.
Yeah, like you said, going from 2-10 to whatever they want to be this year, it's like all these portal players are not created equal. When they got Jared Verse and Fisk and all those guys, Keon Coleman, I mean, everybody wanted those dudes. Those guys were dudes. It wasn't like surprises that they ended up being what they were. They won those battles. These guys, you don't really hear about. Deuce Robinson maybe a little, but you didn't really hear about these guys in the portal. But Mon, put on your DB hat for a second, like your Willington High School.
Yeah.
Which I thought you would have been a hell of a DB. I remember back in the day, we were kind of debating on the boards whether you'd be a receiver or DB. I was like, look, you could do both. Man, those safety highlights look good. You were knocking people out, as we saw later with FSU.
I got a funny story, D-Money, that I was supposed to play both ways. I was supposed to do the Travis Hunter before the Travis Hunter. It didn't work out when I got there, and there's some medical stuff popped up, so I couldn't. Rick kept me on offense, but there's some talks about something similar to Bryce Fitzgerald, how he's on third downs and just passing situations. I was gonna do something similar, but then I got there, kind of switched up. Then it gave me the big ass 82. So
I don't know, man. Sounds like they use a little recruiting ploy. The old whoopsie do on you.
Hey, they got me right. They got me, bro.
But so DB perspective, right? It's like FSU's passing game is unique because kind of they lull you to sleep and then boom, it's big plays. It's not like a every down kind of normal passing game like you see with some of the other teams. I guess USF has a little bit of that, but certainly it's not the normal passing game with what FSU does. How do you deal with that kind of game where it's like if you slip up for 1 second, you look in the wrong place, they're hitting you with a 60-yard touchdown as opposed to just marching down the field?
Yeah, man, it's difficult. At least when I play DB, it gets boring out there sometimes, and it's easy to fall asleep because if you're someone that, let's say, a really good corner, you're not really getting targeted that much. So you kind of get out there and you're kind of just going through the motions a little bit. You're just kind of playing your assignment, and then all of a sudden the guy runs a post route and you're trying to like, stay on point. So it's definitely important to just have like that focus, even when, you're not getting no action, even when the quarterback isn't targeting. Like, I don't think Castellanos is going to come out and just start throwing a ball like he's Pat Mahomes or anything like that, but he will take shots, as we saw in the last game. He will push the ball down the field. He can, get creative in the run game. He can extend plays as well outside the pocket. So you have to be focused, and I think that's something probably Heatherman is definitely going to make sure the guys, or the DBs in particular, just stay in your assignment, because we seen last game, a pop pass, you see reverses, different concepts to, kind of capitalize off DBs going to sleep based on how their offenses ran with the read options and, that quarterback traps and things of that nature. So just always stay ready. I think that's where Virginia got caught slipping, because when Florida State started passing, we saw their DBs, they almost weren't ready. Even if they're in position, it didn't seem like they were expecting, really the ball to go their way. So it's difficult, but I think it's a challenge that, I think we'll have our guys ready for.
Thoughts on Deuce Robinson from what you've seen?
Yeah, I think he's a pro player for sure. Draftable guy. I mean, you just can't teach or coach like some of the stuff he's doing. Like that size, 6'6", and playing like it. I mean, those are just like, 50-50 balls, and they're literally just throwing them in his area, and he's just going to get it. So I do like his game a lot. I said early in the season, I think Deuce Robinson would be one of their better players. Just because, bro, that size and speed is definitely crazy.
And if it's a well-placed ball, like even if it's Xavier Lucas on him, if it's a well-placed ball, which that's not a given in this situation. But like if it's a well-placed ball, then it's gonna be pretty tough to defend. No.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think this week, I don't know if the technique changes, but if I'm a DC or if I'm a DB, like I'm getting my eyes back at the quarterback, like I'm making contact with the receiver, like I wouldn't say press manning, but we're bumping and running, and at the midpoint of the route, like I'm getting my head turned around, because I'm going to be anticipating a lot of back shoulders this game. I don't think they're going to outrun our receivers. I don't think Deuce Robinson's faster than like Xavier Lucas, but he's a bigger body, so I think that's where there's a disadvantage. So guys like Lucas, Frederick, Ethan O'Connor, I think making contact within a route, like legally, having hands on a receiver, but getting your eyes back at the ball is going to be very important, because there's going to be a lot of back shoulders. As we've seen, they started doing it a lot towards the last game. So I think they found a little something that worked for them with their little connection. They'll try to continue it this week. As
Johnny Lagoon points out, I think Deuce Robinson scored on Lucas last year for like a 30-yard touchdown.
Yeah, it was. I was watching. It was Lane, I think, Jacoby Lane, number 8, which that kid is just that kid is nasty, bro. That kid is nasty, bro.
So you got the nice scenery behind you there with the window. It's a beautiful day right now, but I'm hearing that might be a little rainy on Saturday. We don't know. It's Tuesday, but you know how these things go. It's been bad luck with rain for the Miami Hurricanes. Put yourself in the game. You played some rainy games. Obviously, you grew up down here. From not just the catching part of it, but the running routes, your feet in the turf, just how it's feeling. Like, take us through from a player's perspective, play it in wet conditions as a receiver.
Man, it's definitely like annoying for sure as a receiver, just because when you're cutting at the break points, you're always thinking in the back of your head, like, let me not, cut too fast. You're going to slip. And if you slip on any of these routes, it's most likely interception. So it's kind of one of those, you're going to be running fast, but you're not going to be running your full speed. You want to be under control, get open in the pockets, just make sure you catch the ball first. So I wouldn't be surprised of not seeing a lot of like yak or anything like that when it's a rain game. But one thing I do think that does work in rain games is double moves, only because the cornerbacks, they have to cut on the same surface. So if you're able to execute double moves and, things that get them on their toes, get them uncomfortable or make them hesitate, I think that'll be work. So I think we'll see a lot of like hitch routes, like digs, obviously the goal ball, maybe like comebacks, things like that nature, where the DBs have to chop their feet as well.
So it's not just with the rain part. So looking at the way FSU plays defense, they, from what I could see, you tell me if you see differently. I don't see great man coverage ability from FSU this year compared to what they've had in the past. They've had better DBs, had a lot of guys drafted or at least NFL opportunities. Earl Little, to me, I don't think is somebody that you want playing a ton of man coverage. Again, from my perspective, and they got killed in zone against Virginia. The pass rush wasn't getting home, and they were just getting in there. How do you see us attacking FSU's defense in the passing game, and where do you see vulnerabilities?
I think we'll see a similar look to Notre Dame. I think we're going to get a lot of man coverage. And off the strength that it's a rivalry, and every year I've played Florida State, it's like quite literally majority man coverage. And I think that's just what it is, where like, we don't like you, you don't like us, we're going to play man, we think your guys suck, and then we think your DBs can't guard us. So I think we're going to see a lot of like man bump and run and a lot of pressure. I think they're going to try to get after Carson Beck. I think they saw some things maybe that UF did at the, stunting at the line of scrimmage and sending backers and things of that nature to kind of change the window on him to make him like pause or chop his feet, whatever the case may be. So I anticipate a lot of blitzing. I think they were one of 3-3-5 or whatever the case may be. So I'm sure they're going to come with heavy pressure and just bump and run. I anticipate it. I'm almost, if I was a betting man and I had to bet my life on it, I would probably bet that they're going to run man coverage quite often throughout the game. Not saying it's going to work for them, because I think we have a lot of good man beaters, and we saw that against Notre Dame, but that's just what it usually is historically with Florida State and Miami.
Our boy Bagging Up says, Shannon Dawson said he has thrown 60 times in the rain and wasn't the reason for the lack of passing. We can put we aren't throwing because it's raining to bed. I will say this. I don't know how many times that, at West Virginia, Houston, that Dawson had a run game to fall back on or an offensive line in the rain. I don't know that he had an opportunity. I don't know that he had the go ahead.
Pete, I wasn't gonna say it. I wasn't gonna bust that guy's bubble, but I was gonna be like, brother, none of those teams he coached had any type of run game like that. So I mean, I didn't expect that, but he did elaborate that the weather climate, it didn't impact his decisions. Like, that wasn't the only reason, but it may have played a small part, just because, like he said, that the other team offense weren't doing nothing, and essentially, like, I'm not going to give them opportunities to get in the game by throwing the ball in the rain, which I just said that a guy slips, the ball, strip sack, whatever the case may be. Like, why would you continue throwing the ball when the team can't stop your run game? That makes no type of sense. We would be in here complaining if he kept airing it out in the rain and we lost. And they were like, why would you throw the ball like this 60 times in the rain? That's what we would say, So, yeah. I get it, though. We can be better for sure. I think we can execute better, which he said. But, it do change this thing, in my opinion, when it's raining like that. And if they couldn't stop the run, I mean, why would you, want to air it out like that? But
so, Ahmad, now that we're on the topic of offense, let's get into, we get more comments about these guys than anything. We talked about it last week, and that video went kind of viral, and I think you broke it down perfectly last week when we spoke about it, but we have a little bit more clarity. And I think Coach Dawson's been hanging out with Mario a lot here and learning his ways with the media, because as we see here, the quote from yesterday's press conference, as our buddy David Lake says, he says, Dawson says he is excited about getting JoJo and Jordan Lyle back this week. Says it will be up to them to make plays when they get opportunities, and they will get plenty of opportunities. So it's funny because a few weeks ago, they told Shannon, the media told him, hey, Mario said these guys would be back, and Shannon kind of looked surprised, like, oh well, I'll let Coach talk about the availability of players. So it was almost like back then, like Dawson knew those guys weren't playing that week, and he was surprised to hear it. So I say that to now show this and say it sounds like we will actually see these guys this week in action. So your thoughts on that, and then let's just get into that whole situation, right?
Yeah, nah, man. When the injury thing or guys being nicked up or whatever, right? That's always like fun. Just being a player that was injured, right? And I had torn my hamstring, and just seeing the different reports that go out like during the week about is he healthy or not is definitely funny, because sometimes you're definitely not playing, but they're like, hey, he's gonna play, and then sometimes you're like, gonna play and they're kind of like on the fence, right? So it's kind of funny. You really never really know unless you're like there. But it's good to hear. I do think you're right. I do think we can have the opportunity to see them. And just knowing that our offense has been scoring, the minimum points was 26, and we haven't had really our best running back. If we're going to buy like projections coming into the year, we had Jordan Lyle
no projection. That's what the coaches told us with the first snaps against Florida. I'm not trying to get on you. I'm just saying we saw it, right?
Hey, so based on that like logic, it's like we've been doing our thing so far, and we haven't even had like that one play running back, right? That Jordan Lyle guy that he can hit it one time and take it 80 yards because of his speed and explosiveness. And then you got a guy like JoJo, right, who's your dynamic receiver, who's fast, can get downfield, stretch the field. So we'll see if they're back, and if they're back, I do think they'll get some snaps for sure. And kind of like Coach said, I mean, it's going to be down to what they do with the opportunity. If you think about the Notre Dame game, JoJo had 2 opportunities on those 2 deep balls to make a play, right? So if they're in the game they're playing, they're definitely going to get opportunities, right? And I just hope that they make the most of it. And especially when you come off injury, if you're able to get in there and make an impact play, it kind of gets that confidence going. It kind of gets you in that rhythm, especially as we go into ACC play as well. So excited to see those guys back, man, honestly.
And to Devin Ayer's comment / question here, he says, who on the wide receiver core does JoJo take reps from at this point? CJ, Tony, Marion have been balling. And listen, Tony Johnson hasn't done anything to say that he deserves to be like taken out of there. But that's what you just said and to what Coach Dawson said, like, you got to make a play. You got to earn these reps. And that's what this week of practice, as Mario has said with JoJo, and this is what we talked about last week, the whole practice harder thing. So that was a part of the equation. Lyle, I still think, man, against Florida last week, if we were sputtering, the run game was sputtering, neither Fletcher and Marty Brown were getting anything going, I think that Lyle would have gotten an opportunity last game. And I think that's what you're saying is like every situation is different. But we're like, he may have been ready to go, but like it just wasn't necessary to push him then.
Yeah, exactly. Like he could have. I remember 2017, we were playing, I think it was Virginia Tech, and like I was still out, but we were like losing low key, and it was one of the things where I could have went out there. We ended up winning the game, but it was like I was almost good enough to play, and if it came down to it, I would have went out there. But then it started pouring, raining, and then Langham obviously had a crazy catch, to seal it, but there's just situations where the guy is ready to go if something were to happen. Like if, knock on wood, one of the running backs get hurt, right? Then I think he's a guy that, okay, we got to use you, like you're ready for that type of situation. But if we're winning, we're, running the ball well, like you're not getting in the game, brother.
George Cherry says, I stay in Tallahassee. I'm a Canes since 1984. It's not supposed to rain Saturday, 10%. I hope the forecast is right. The meteorologist is on point. But, Ahmad, obviously you have the insight as a former player and everything that comes with that. But I don't know if everybody realizes how often you're at practice and you're seeing these dudes in a way that the media and other people can't see him. So Lyle, we saw a little bit of him on the field last year. JoJo, we saw a little bit on the field last year. But you, having been at practice, has seen more of those guys with the ones going against the ones. And I think most people have seen. I've been standing next to you when they made some of these big plays. So for those who have not seen these players at against the ones, and they see them in garbage time, whatever. Like, what do they both bring to the table, starting with Jordan Lyle?
Yeah, Lyle is very explosive. Like, I remember vividly seeing a play where we're like backed up. I don't know the situation, maybe it was on purpose, but we're like backed up in like our 10-yard line or something crazy, going out, like going the length of the field. And it was like the second play, and he busted, took it like 67 yards, hit the sideline, like it was like an inside play. He just kind of bounced it out. And I think that's what he brings. Like, he's a guy that can get through the hole, and he's able to have enough speed and elusiveness to get to the outside and actually get the edge on these guys. I think right now, like the type of guys we have is like Fletcher and Brown. They're more like your north-south, which I think Marty Brown has more wiggle to him than Fletcher, but those are more of your north-south, like ground and pound, like thumpers. And Lyle just gives you like that excitement, that like, I'm at like Mark Walton, but like faster, if that makes sense, a little lighter, but he has like that extra juice to him that I think would make that running back room very dynamic. Yeah, I like Lyle a lot. I think that's what he brings to the table.
Yeah, I love the Walton comp. That truthfully, you said he's lighter. I mean, I definitely think he's faster, but standing next to him, the thing that he's one of those guys that I think when you stand next to him, I did an interview with him, so I sat down with him. Like he's bigger than you think. Like he's just like one of these big dudes. Whereas Walton's one of those guys. I think you see him on the field running people over, and then you see him in person. And he's actually kind of like smaller than you think because of the way he plays, right? I mean, so he's. I gotta think he's like 200. They list him at like 195 or something, Lyle. But he's from what I've seen, he's definitely easy over 200. Like he's got some physical stuff too.
Yeah, no, he's definitely. I just remember he's definitely thicker in the lower body, for sure.
So JoJo Trader, someone who has some similarities to you. I think you bigger, more physical player, but a smooth guy. You were one. Did you ever run track? Like were you ever a 100-meter type of guy?
So I hated track, but I trained with track like in high school. Like I was doing the workouts and stuff. I just hated running in a circle, honestly. Like it was so boring. My mom ran track in high school, and that whole side of the family like ran track out at Glade Central. So it's really my DNA. My dad, he's Jamaican, so it's just natural for me to be like a runner or like a sprinter. But if I really wanted to do track, I could have. I was literally bored. Like you waited to track meet. I didn't know you had to wait until the end of the meet to do like the 4x1 and all that. I'm like, dude, why are we waiting here for hours? Like, I'm just sitting in the stands. Like, I didn't know. I'm new to that whole world in high school. So I sat there from like, I think it was like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, all the way until like at night. And I'm like, I will never do this ever again. Like, I never did a meet or anything. I just trained.
Isn't that how you meet the girls though? That's what I had thought track was for, is all you get around the girls all day.
Man, I was green. I didn't know. I was just out there waiting in the stands. I'm thinking they're gonna call. I'm thinking it goes by fast. But man, I think it's one of those things where you go in you do your jumping or whatever in the beginning, and then you leave, go eat whatever, and then you come back. I didn't know that. I just sat out there and watched all these events all day. I was so mad, and it was cold too. It was cold, and I told my mom, I was like, yeah, I'm never doing a meet ever again. So I was like, I'll work out and train and work, do that type of stuff, sprint drills and stuff, but I'm not running in no circle, none of that ever again.
Well, I use that to say, like with Trader, he didn't run track either, but he's one of those guys like you. It's like you don't have like a 10-6 time next to the name, but you know that the athleticism is different. And when they're running routes, when you're running routes, when he's running routes, I mean, you guys get open by a mile, right? So there is some similarity there. What do you see when you see JoJo Trader? And like, now that you've seen our team, like you've seen what we do without him and kind of how our passing game operates, like what can he add to this team right now, game 5?
I think he can legit be like that vertical threat that I think like we're like lacking. And I wouldn't say necessarily lacking. I think Keelan Marion can give you that as well. CJ Daniels can push the ball downfield, but I think JoJo Trader can give you like that classic blur that we've been looking for. He's got behind the defense against Notre Dame. Like you see him stretching the field against Notre Dame as well on that goal ball that was incomplete, but that type of ability. Also, he's a very smooth route runner, creating separation. I think that's what he's really good at as well. Just being reliable, good hands, good feet. He plays like one of those like your typical like South Florida receiver who can just get open, make you look stupid, point at you probably. Like he's that type of guy. So if he stays healthy, I think that part of the offense, it can go to another level. And then when you talk about him and Keelan Marion at this point, rotating in and really like, because they're physical in the run game. I've seen JoJo blocking as well. Keelan Marion, really good blocker as well. Just having that rotational depth where guys can be fresh and kind of go off each other. I think that's very important. I think Notre Dame, when he got in those few reps, was very good. But since then, obviously, we haven't really seen like that Z receiver rotation like that. Is really just Keelan Marion really out there. So we'll see if it comes to fruition. But I like that part of JoJo game. I think we're missing that so far, but I'm not mad at it because I think our offense has still been very productive so far. But I think there's a whole nother level as the season go on. We get all our guys back, we can hit another type of explosiveness on offense.
Let me follow up on that because you mentioned the Z receiver. So, like for the old guys, like my dad calls it the flanker, right? That's what he calls it, the flanker. Then the X is the split end. But like, explain to the fans who might not know what a flanker Z receiver is, how it's what what type of player fits in body wise, skill wise, and then their function in the offense.
Yeah, like Z receiver is what we call it. It's usually like your agile guys, like you're in the field more times than not. You're not necessarily like 6'4", 6'5" slow guy. You want your more of your like I wouldn't say smaller, but your normal size receivers or explosive receivers there. So guys like Stacy Coley played there, Mike Harley. Trying to think who else.
Jacoby George, right? Did a little bit.
Jacoby George was a Z. So you're like smaller type of guys, not like you're sick, like you're Josh Moores and CJ Daniels. Those guys are like in your boundary type guys, are in a bigger body type guys. So that's really the difference. So you want to get those guys the ball in space. That's kind of like the goal.
And they don't line up on the line, right? They're offset.
Depending on the formation, sometimes they're on the ball. They could be off, just depending on whatever the route concept is. Every coach, like they may have a guy on the line, some guy. Like I know in my high school, like all the Z's lined up off the ball. I don't know why, but just depends on the scheme, I think.
So real quick on just before we get off these guys, like the offense is I'm doing its job. They're winning games. Yep. You've seen it, I'm sure, because you're in the spaces, you're on Twitter, the whole, you're really in tune with the fan base.
Yeah.
Like there's a whole idea of this offense is not explosive enough. And there was rain games. We talked about that. You're kind of front loaded as far as the best players, the defensive players that you're going against with Notre Dame and Florida, as far as like the most 4-star, 5-star type bodies and stuff. You're not going to see that necessarily as you go forward with the ACC until you get to the playoff, if you get there. But do you agree with that this offense could get more explosive? And how do you think this offense can get more explosive?
Yeah, I think we have another level, honestly. Like, I do think with Jordan Wild coming back, Jojo Trader getting in the mix, I just think there's still some more vertical, like deep threats and deep shots we can take. And they've been there, honestly, throughout the games from Notre Dame all the way into Florida. Like they've been times where guys are open, whether the pressure breaks down or Beck doesn't see them. I seen Elijah Lofton
getting tackled.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen Lofton get open. Like I think every game, I think that man has had a touchdown, and it's just like he just gets missed in the read. But I think it's there, man. It's just I think Dawson said it's just got to execute it when it's there. Rain or not, the opportunities present themselves. You just got to execute when they do.
Question from Michael Quinones I want to get to, which I think is an interesting one. He says, how does a wide receiver study film? Are they looking at hand placements, how they swing their hips when they cut? Always been curious, just the details and the process of a wide receiver studying film.
First thing you want to see is the alignment of the DBs and the safeties. That'll tell you what they're going to be in more times than not. So usually you're going to go throughout the week. Coach is going to give you a big ass pamphlet to look through. You're going to study the film, and they're going to give you indicators, right? Whether if they're doing a Charlie blitz, which is like the boundary corners taking a blitz, you can look and tell based on alignment of the safety. So before every snap, you're like looking, okay, so if he's 12 yards and he's off the hash, 80% of the time they're blitzing, right? And the other 20, they might be, in some type of cover 3, maybe he bails, or they check out of it. So that's kind of where it starts. And then from that point, like, I'm just like watching like the corner I'm facing, like his tendencies. Okay, is he a jump in type of corner? Is he physical in the, 10 yards in a route? Does he like to like get into your body? Is he a corner that likes to play off? Like you have to like look at all these things, and you have to watch like numerous games. You got to watch games from this year, games from the previous year. You have to like watch like a lot of film, really, I guess, to summarize. But those are the things that I would look for. And when I see like a receiver or I say like a corner, like for example, Tavares McFadden, like I already knew going into the game, he's a corner. He has long arms. He's not the fastest guy at all times, but his arms and length makes up for it. So he's going to want to get hands on you. He want to be tied to you the whole route, so that going into the game, you got to, work on your releases, getting hands off you and just being physical at the point of, when the ball's in the air, because he's that type of guy. Then I noticed that he also, when the ball is in the air, he tends to go to sleep a little bit. And then we ended up seeing that 2016 when Stacy Coley caught the would have been game time touchdown. And then the very next year, Langham caught the pass, and it was the same type of play where the ball was in the air and he just didn't. He can track the ball in the air for whatever reason. I don't know. So things like that is what you want to like focus on, and stuff like that can give you a slight advantage. Because these type of games are like won by like inches. So that's kind of how I would like study film. But it's a lot more. But I ain't gonna kill everybody with all this knowledge. But that's like the basics I can like give.
Juan Manuel asking if we're going to see more Josh Moore, JoJo, which we talked about, JoJo, or Luka Gilbert and Brock Schott. Based on what I don't know that this is the week we're going to see more of the young tight ends. Luka Gilbert did get a snap. I mean, he was playing on the goal line last week, so he's obviously someone who's in the mix there. But I don't think they're giving up based on what I know on the Bauman thing just yet.
Okay.
Yeah, so I did see Luka Gilbert. I was watching that game the other day, the last game against Florida, and he was on the goal line. He can catch. We've seen him in practice. He was more of a blocker than a receiver in high school, but he's been more of a receiver than a blocker since he's been here. But it's just there's a physical maturity aspect to that, just getting stronger and all that. The bye week, coming off a bye week, like for a game like this, it's a rivalry game on the road. You as a player, you just played. It's a weird schedule. I don't know if you ever had this kind of scenario, but just putting yourself in their shoes. A game against Florida, which was an extremely, physical, emotional. It was a primetime game, right? You had the A1 team in the booth. It was a big spotlight game. A lot of emotional energy, a lot of physical exertion. Then the bye, and then you go play a team like Florida State, which is a whole totally different offense. Not the cookie cutter offense. It's kind of takes some extra prep. Obviously, you're an offensive player, but it's a different offense that the defense has to prepare for. Do you think it's better to set up this way where you get that bye after that emotional Florida game, getting into another emotional rivalry game, or do you think this is something they got to overcome?
We'll overcome it because I do think the way Mario is like kind of heading this thing, like I think, everyone says like, oh, 1-0 every week, 1-0, but it truly feels like the team, like every week, like they're actually preparing for that team. Rivalry game, bye week, which in this case, I think because we had those 4 like physical type of matchups, or 3, I should say, don't really include Bethune. I think it was a good time for our guys to like get that rest and kind of recover and refresh and recharge the battery so they can come out again and, homer it down. And then also we have a bye week after. So I do think the mentality is like get rest, go kill, then we get another rest again before we go into like this run on ACC games.
Yeah, I will obviously, like most people, wasn't a fan of the bye structure, but now I kind of like it.
Yeah, no, I like it, man. Me personally, I'm not mad at it. I do think we played Louisville after the bye. That's the first game after the last bye week.
Yep.
I do think, honestly, at first I didn't like the way the schedule set up with the bye weeks, but then just looking back now, like the type of physical teams we had to play, it makes sense to have it now. Get that out the way, and then you kind of go on a run where you're playing ACC opponents. I'm not saying Louisville isn't physical, but they're not Notre Dame up front. I don't think it's those type of matchups. I'm trying to say, like, I think we can play our brand of football without getting to like one of those physical, like hard-nosed type of battles, or trench battles, I should say. I think we have the trenches from here on out throughout ACC play for sure.
Yeah, that was the game last year where like Damian Martinez ran through the whole team. Remember that run that he had? Like that was not definitely wasn't Notre Dame out there when he was dragging 6 guys into the end zone last year against Louisville. Different kind of game. Looking at Florida State's defensive backs, we talked about it a little bit. Last year they had that guy Azariah Thomas, who I thought was a really talented player. Plays for the Jets. We saw him yesterday. They've had some good DBs over the last few years, but I'm not sure this crew, at least from the hype around them, is on that level. What do you see when you see these FSU DBs and the 2 games they played?
Honestly, I'm gonna be real. They're not bad. Like I think they're actually pretty solid. Like they're actually pretty good. I think number 11, Rawls. I think he's a good corner.
Rawls,
physical. Yeah, he gets his head around. He always has his eyes on the quarterback. It seems. Number 3 is pretty solid as well. I think he's pretty good in the run game as well. Who else? I think Earl Little brings like a physicality, at least in the run game for sure. I think he's kind of taking that like step as being like their like they're like striker almost in a way. Like he's coming down, like he's like their thumper, like he's trying to be like that identity type player for them. So we'll, I think we match up pretty well against them. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna sit here and say they're trash or anything like that. I don't think they're trash, which pains me to say.
You're disappointing D. He was ready for it. He was trying to
yeah. No, I hate to say it, but I think they're pretty good. I think they have good abilities. I'll say that. I think they have good abilities, at least on a collegiate level. But I do think we just match up very well against them. Like we got bigger body receivers. I think Keelan Marin, like he's not your small Z, like he's not like skinny or anything. I think he could be physical. Then you just got Malachi Tony in the slot. I just don't think anyone can guard him, and he's physical in the run game. So it just, when I see it, I think we match up well for what they do well, just being physical in their corners, in their cornerback room and things of that nature. I'm talking about at least when the ball's in the air. Like they're like, I think they play the ball pretty well in the air. So, but I think we do a really good job of, making contested catches, running good routes. So it's going to be a good matchup, man. But overall, they're going to have to stop that run game. And that's kind of where I chuckle, because like, I just don't think they can stop the run. So
now I will say they have been running all over teams on the other side of the ball, like offensively. I know we're talking about their defense, but you could say this is, which you would have easily said Notre Dame before the season, but now seeing what it is in terms of Miami's run defense, it's been great, but this is the biggest test so far, and it's more so because of the function of the way the offense operates. No,
say that one more time.
Like with the misdirection and like, it's not because they are over physical. They're being more physical than a lot of teams, right? It's the way that the offense runs with Malzahn, and it's, there's a lot of tricky stuff to deal with.
They're not like running straight at you. Like it's a lot of like counter read options, quarterback trap. Then you got the wildcat they throw in there. So it's definitely tricky. It reminds me of, I think of like a Georgia Tech-ish type of style, where it's like a lot of misdirection, get your linebackers flowing the wrong way, get a guy out of his gap, like that type of stuff is where they capitalize. So I think that's where Heatherman even touched on it, just being like, it's going to be very like assignment football on Saturday, because that's what they do. And if you get out of your position, 70 yards, just that quick, one play, 70-yard run by the running back up the middle because the DN got out of his gap, or Castellano picks up 30 yards because, a guy crashed on a running back and he pulled it, right? So that type of stuff is where I think they're successful, but I don't think they line up and just physically move you out the way like we do up front. Like we line up and quite literally, like, we're running right in the A gap, and it's like, it's 3rd and 3. Everyone in the world knows we're going right up the middle, and we push for 15 yards. So that's the difference. So yeah, you're right. They try to out scheme you or like out trick you. People say gimmick offense. So I say it's something along the lines of that, but the gimmick ends though when you have too much film on you. I think that's a good part about it, is that when you do it over and over again, when you're running a reverse 3 times against a high school team and you're running all these plays against Virginia, like all that is extra film that you're giving to the next week's opponent to scout and prepare for all the different things you can do off all of the different looks they present.
Question from New King God saying, a lot of media, FSU media and fans think the loss to Virginia will help FSU focus and get their edge back that they had against Bama. Thoughts on that? I kind of agree that if you're not watching on video, Ahmon just put a thumbs down there.
Come on, man.
My thoughts, Ahmon, and I'll throw it to you real quick, is like, there's a lot of dudes on this team from last year that were a part of 2 and 10. And like, if things, and we talked about this with Florida, and to Florida's credit, they didn't lay down when Miami got up early, right? But if Miami goes up a couple scores early, a lot of these guys maybe start having these thoughts of, here we go again, the season down the drain again, lost to Virginia, about to lose, a second AC game in a row. And I think, could there be that psychological part of it too?
Yeah, man. Listen, I don't believe in that shit that people say, like, oh, they're gonna magically just be ready. First off, like, this is like a historic rivalry game. Let's just start there. Like, if you're not ready for this game, already, then something wrong with you anyway, right? You don't deserve to even win. So they're gonna be ready. But saying that because they lost, like they're gonna have more fuel to the fire. Like, what about the counter argument? What about them losing and the team losing faith in the scheme? What about that? What about them getting their shit pushed in by 46 points against Virginia and them kind of doubting the defensive coach and his scheme and his types of like play calling? Like, what about that part of things? Like, this team just went 2-10. You don't think like they've been riding that wave and now they're kind of reset to reality? Like, hold on, we may not be as good as we thought. Like that, those are thoughts as well that guys have. So, and as a guy that we freshman year, we're undefeated. We lost to Florida State at home and we went on like a 4-game losing streak because we couldn't get over it. You know?
Yeah. That was, by the way, I'm getting off track, but that was to me the most underrated Miami team. You know, by the time you played West Virginia in the bowl game, you scored that long touchdown. I thought you guys were better than 17. You were on both, so you probably have a better opinion than me. But just watching it, man, that 16 team by the end of the year, you guys, I thought were pretty complete.
Man, I'm trying to tell you, if that block punt or that block field goal don't happen, I can almost guarantee you we go undefeated. Like, we had a lot of talent on both sides of the thing. We had a quarterback, Brad, you know, like leading the charge, like David Njoku at tight end, Braxton, Stacy Coley. I was out there. Chris Herndon was a backup.
Herndon too. That's what I was gonna say.
Herndon was a backup. Think about that, and he was in the NFL for quite a minute. He was starting for the Jets for a little minute. Yep. You know, so it's like we had the talent on both ends.
You could make a strong argument. I don't know that it's much of an argument. You had better skill position talent on that team than this team.
Yeah, no, we had guys for sure. So it was just like, but sometimes when you take that loss, like you got to remember you have a team full of 105 guys or whatever it is.
And you guys hadn't really been there before either.
Yeah.
Like you hadn't been in that position before.
Exactly. So when you get that heartbreaking loss, like, and you get slapped in the face, because we're ranked in 2016. We're above Florida State. We're ranked 10. They're like 23. They lost like 2 games. And we go out and get beat by them. Like, it hurt us to our core, and just the way we lost, that it's kind of like the next week we couldn't bounce back. Then the week after that, couldn't bounce back. And then, you know, we went on like a 4-game losing streak. And then we eventually got it together and we won 5 games, won a bowl game, and, you know, ended the season the right way. But I guess what I'm saying is that, like, people are trying to like say that this team, like, they're just going to magically just take a loss and just all the whole team, 105 guys are all going to come with that same passion and belief. Like that, it don't work like that. You know, the quarterback, man, Castellanos, he probably will just get an idea of his personality. But what about the left guard? What does he think about the play calling? Or what about the defensive tackle? What about Daryl Jackson? You think he's going to be fired up for this game? Or I'm just saying, like, it's like those are the things I look at. So to answer the question, I think we're ready to almost put the nail in the coffin, you know, for them. Kind of like similar what we did to the UF, how people said the same thing. Billy is against the wall. The team's going to come in rivalry game on the road and they have nothing to lose.
You effectively, and they're out of the ACC if they lose the second one. I would think.
Come on. You heard what Bain said. Y'all next. Y'all next. I'm telling you, y'all next.
I was one of those thinking that DJ Lagway was going to come out and throw for 300-something yards and play the game of his life, and the guy, you know, couldn't get a first down. They got less yards than Bethune, so it shows you what I know. But
yeah, no, he could have. That's correct, and he could have. But it's like the possibility where, shit, hey, D Money, you could play the lottery right now, win 300 million. Like, you could, but you may lose too, right? You may just donate your money as well. So it's like there's always that possibility where a guy could go off crazy. You just hope it don't happen when you play him, or your game plan can, you know, not allow that to happen. So far we've been holding guys in check. Breakout star players haven't produced against us. Jeremiah Love, DJ Lagway, right? All these guys coming in, or even a USF quarterback. Like, we've helped these star guys, or the other team star guys. We kept them in check. So I expect the same thing this week. I think Castellanos is their star guy, and I think we keep him and make him do things he's uncomfortable with doing.
Yeah, it's like all the variables you talk about. The good thing about this team is there's not that many variables when you line up with tight splits and just run up the middle and get 5 yards pushing, or, you know, Ruben Bain goes through someone's chest. I mean, there's not a lot of guesswork with that. That kind of travels pretty good and is pretty consistent. But real quick, want to let you go. You've been awesome as always, man. The most requested, the most popular. You've talked about a little how you think it's going to go, but like overall prediction on this ball game.
Man, true prediction. I think we win by probably 21, 22 points. Whew. I'm gonna tell you why though. See, I'm gonna tell you why. I think offensively, I think we're gonna have a little bit more attack. I think we're at the point where the offense is kind of hearing, I won't say the noise, but they're kind of feeling like, okay, we're the bad end of the team, right? The defense has been biting from game one. I think now is the game where you're on the road, hostile environment. What are you going to do? How are you going to respond? We just came off like a subpar game against Florida, right? Notre Dame, right? We left a lot on the field. Same thing, USF. I mean, USF was a good game, I guess, offensively, but I think now is a game where the offense wants to click, right? You kind of want to leave your mark on the season. So I anticipate us having a lot of success on the offensive side of things. And I think our defense is going to show up and, do what they do, which is get off the field on third downs, which we seen last game, get off the field on third downs and give our offense more opportunities. And I think with those opportunities, I think we'll capitalize a little bit more this week. That's my guess. So I think we won by 21, 22 points. If I had to guess, I'm saying what, 30, I don't know, 33, 13, something like that.
Love it, man.
I think you're the best. Like once and twice.
I'll take that all day. You're the man. Wish we had you on the field, but the next best thing is having you right here on the CanesInSight Daily Podcast. So, man, appreciate you. You gonna go out? You going up there?
I wish. I want to, but I can't. Got some business to take care of. I thought about it, man, but I think I'm gonna enjoy this whipping from the home, man. I'm gonna enjoy it on TV. Maybe go to Hard Rock or something. Kick up, catch a drink or two, and enjoy the bloodbath it's about to be.
Oh, love it. Ahmad Richards, everybody. Every week we talking Canes. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys, man.
Ahmad.
All righty.
There you go, Pete. Hey, listen, we went by 3 touchdowns. That would mean we're 3 scores better than basically every team in the state. And I think that's a pretty good state championship if you can get it done.
I don't know, man. FIU played Penn State tough in Happy Valley.
What do they call it? The roar. Pitbull Stadium's a tough place to play. Maybe if that game's in Pitbull Stadium, they beat Penn State. I like that stadium. They take dial every time you get a first down.
Listen, we've been talking a lot about not a lot, but we've mentioned how I think we could use like a little feeder program. I was thinking about using Florida, but I don't think they're worthy for it. We need something better. So I think FIU's looking like the choice, man.
Yeah, I like that. We'll maybe we'll see him in the playoff and take him on. But listen, if you can't make it out to the game, which most of you cannot or are not going to be out there, you'll be sitting at home. Why not just go to the home of the Hurricanes, Duffy's Tavern, right there on the edge of Coral Gables, right next to the home of one Peter Ariz. This is the home of the Hurricanes, where the elite meet to eat. Historic location. This has been serving Canes fans for decades. And look right there. Now accepting credit cards. Yes, really. So we're up to speed. It is the home of the Hurricanes. It's one of the homes of the CanesInSight podcast. I'll probably be out there sometime today. Probably go for lunch. I don't know, Pete, if you have any lunch plans, because I'll be out there. I'm going to take a shower and probably head straight there to West Miami to grab some food at Duffy's. We'll do another show there this week. Maybe I'll record something here today. But it is the home of the Hurricanes. It's our home away from home. Now accepting credit cards. Best in the business. The lights are on even when it's a thunderstorm in your neighborhood. So shout out to Jose and the boys out there at Duffy's Tavern. Now accepting credit cards. Not Duffy's chain. Not that sterile deal. This is the real deal, historic spot. Make sure you're looking for Duffy's Tavern. Put that tavern in there to make sure you're going to the right spot. And Saturday, they're going to have every game in the book. And, of course, they will have the big screens tuned in to Miami versus Florida State like they've been doing for probably, 40 years of this rivalry. Shout out to Kellen, says he will be there.
Juan Manuel says, wow, Duffy's takes credit cards, debit cards too. Yes, they do. They take it all at Duffy's.
Yeah, man, that's That's definitely the spot. I'm looking forward to. What should I get? What's good for lunch? What's the lunch thing? I know you get like
the specials. They always have specials that are great. I mean, I know you eat fish, so they usually have a fresh fish on special over there. I like the mahi if it's on special, man.
Yeah, that might be one.
Yeah, so
they had got a shout out on Jimmy Fallon. I would post a clip, but we get a copyright hit. It's on the Instagram. My boy Tom Yamas.
I saw it.
You saw that? My boy Tom Yamas, the host of NBC Nightly News, one of the top anchors on the planet. He shared a story about Duffy's Tavern and his family gathering there. I was there too. Those guys are the best. The Yamas family. Shout out to Lisette. Shout out to Louis. Shout out to the whole crew. But anyways, we were out there at Duffy's for when he had his first show, and he told the story on Jimmy Fallon. So shout out to Duffy. It's international out there. But yeah, man, Ahmad was awesome as always. There you go. That was not a D-Money homer prediction. 3-touchdown win.
Let's see, man. I'm not gonna. I'll reserve judgment to see what your prediction is this week, man, because you had a lot of people stunned last week. You really did. It is what it is, man. We'll see. We know we know you're always very confident, but that one was a bit disappointing last week, D.
It's the college football rules, like the college football laws have been against us in the last 2 games. Now, look, the college football laws were in our favor for USF, and I picked a big blowout, and that was a big blowout. I was wrong the next week. Now the college football laws say rivalry game on the road, team just lost a big one. They're going to be motivated. It'll be closer than you think. I really don't think this FSU team is very good. I mean, I don't. I look at their roster and I don't see players that could play for us or that would play for us. I don't see a lot of that. Daryl Jackson, if he's motivated, absolutely. Character-wise, up and down. Deuce Robinson, he would have a role for sure with the way he's playing.
I would take Usman Chroma.
Yeah, I would. They have some guys that I would take for the future. Chroma's good. Danzy, with his speed for sure. Like you would take those guys on your team, but like Chroma is not presently better than the 3 guys we got. And Danzy's more of a gadget guy at this point, but he can hurt you with those gadgets, as we saw against Alabama. He's a big guy, man. Now, that's one thing about Danzy is like Squirrel White's small and fast. Danzy's big and fast, man. He's a big dude. He can break tackles. So we gotta handle that business. That's a concern. He's a real player.
Yeah, definitely. They've got that speed and yeah, I think that's one thing you can say they have an advantage on over Miami is speed on the offensive side of the ball on the outside. Go ahead.
No, Sport Mark saying Daryl wouldn't play for us. Come on, D. So would Robinson. I said Robinson. Daryl would. I mean, his talent, obviously, he would. He'd play, but you can't say that Daryl Jackson has been a consistent player at the ACC level. I mean, he's had some of the best film you'll see in the country. That's why he's going to get drafted probably day 2, just off his physical traits. But he's had some film that is unplayable in the same game sometimes. So, that's pretty impressive. Juan Manuel saying Danzy's only 185. That's what he's listed. He might be bigger, but for a guy that runs 4.2 or whatever the hell he runs, he's strong. He's not like 170. Mm-hmm. This guy broke tackles against Alabama. Kind of reminds me of Keelan Marion in terms of just like straight line kind of guy, strong, fast, more track speed than Marion. Marion more experience, but that's another one. Man, we haven't seen that big play from Marion yet. This would be a perfect game. We talk about Trader so much. It'd be a perfect game for a big Marion.
Yeah, we talk so much about Trader, but I still think Marion's that guy for that. And I think Trader can be a downfield threat, but in a different way. I just think that Marion, as we saw against Notre Dame, looked like he was away there before getting pulled down. But I agree. I think he's just because you haven't seen that much of it on film other than that, right? I will say this. Last week with the bye, it was great timing for Mario because it was his birthday. And I have it on good authority that he celebrated with the best in the business. Lomelo's Meat Market, guys, the fresh Wagyu beef delivered to your door nationwide. I know we have a lot of people across the country listening. Check out lomelos.com for Wagyu meat, Japanese A5. You got Australian Wagyu. You have the American Wagyu. You have the prime meat as well. And if you're local here in Miami, right past Dayland, 110 South Dixie Highway, US 1 there, about 10 minutes from campus. You see the skirt steak, the Denver, the ribeye, you got burgers, sausages, and I don't know if you know this, but they actually have tuna poke prepackaged, salmon poke prepackaged as well. So I know you have your little vegan thing going on, but they've got options for you as well. So and again, like I said, this is where Mario loaded up for his birthday meal at Lomello's Meat Market. Check out lomellos.com. CIS10 for 10% off.
CIS10 for 10% off. Plant-based. Not vegan, you don't eat any animals. I'll eat fish. I'm definitely going to check out that tuna poke. I go by there all the time because that's right next to the place where I buy bait. It's the Kendall Bait and Tackle right there. So it's right down the street. It's right by University of Miami, right next to a lot of stuff. So how about nice little barbecue for the FSU game? Maybe we get some Lomellos on the grill, and maybe we get some cold BUZZN, BUZZN, drink BUZZN, BUZZN.com. Brighten the vibe. You don't need it. You don't need alcohol. You don't need the hangover. 7.5 milligrams of real THC infused seltzer. You could get it pretty much anywhere in South Florida with the Big Daddy's Liquors locations. Big Daddy's Liquors, as big as liquor stores there is in the area. You go roll by there and grab yourself a BUZZN. Also, if you're anywhere else in the country, go to drinkbuzzn.com, drinkbuzzn.com. Use the promo code FIRST50, get 50% off. Stock up on your BUZZN that way. I've had a ton of people text me pictures of their crates, like piles of BUZZN. They're loading up for the winter, I guess, with BUZZN, BUZZN. All hang, no hangover. drinkbuzzn.com. Yeah, so what else is going on in college football this week? It's not the best college football slate. Have you looked at the slate? Have you really dove into the slate, Pete, for college football this weekend?
I am focused on tomorrow in Europe, man. That's where my mind's at right now.
Well,
you know what? This is my problem is that, look at my ESPN.com. So I went to Europe for this wedding, and I guess the cookie got saved on my computer. So when I go to ESPN to look for the college football slate, look what I see. I see this nonsense. I see this guy with the crown, your boy.
There's no nonsense, man.
I don't even know what country this
is. The special one. Jose Mourinho, man. And then Real Madrid plays in Kazakhstan today. So it's
that's what this is.
Time.
That's right here.
That's what that one is. Yeah. So you got Mbappe and the boys heading to Kazakhstan. It's gonna be a barn burner.
Look at this. This is disgusting. Football, and then look at all this. Football. Where's Auburn?
Dude, you got to understand, they got Mourinho against Chelsea today. His return to Stamford. It's going to be a barn burner. This is I don't know. It's I wouldn't say it's like Belichick because he wasn't there as long, but it kind of is. Belichick returned to play against the Patriots. So.
I'll tell you. Speaking of slate, that's Clemson UNC is this weekend. So that's at North Carolina. Let me tell you. So. We all want. I actually like Dabo. I'm a Dabo fan. Compared, obviously, it's not like Clemson's not a rival like some of our other rivals, even though they've been dominating the conference. So I actually like Dabo. He cracks me up. I think he's a great coach. So I don't hate him. But I'm glad that they're struggling now because it creates a pathway for Miami to really dominate the conference, especially if they take care of business against FSU. But if North Carolina at North Carolina, 13.5-point dog beats Clemson. That situation is going to get extremely toxic very fast. By the same token, if North Carolina gets smoked by Clemson after losing to UCF 34-9, TCU 48-14, it's getting ugly because then they got to travel to California. Let me pull this. Let me just look at the schedule here because we talked so much about Belichick in the offseason. It's almost become a non-story. But I mean, look at this. So they're at Clemson, they're playing Clemson at home, 13.5-point dogs. Then at Cal, which we saw last year, it's a brutal trip, really fun trip. I loved it as a Canes fan, but it was a tough trip for the boys. They almost lost. Cal's playing really, really good football. They got the best freshman quarterback in the country. Then they got to go play Virginia at home, a ranked Virginia team who we saw beat Florida State. Syracuse and Stanford, these are very winnable games given that Syracuse is without their quarterback, but also losable games if you're these guys. at Wake. Wake's playing pretty good football. They should have beaten Georgia Tech. I don't know if the quarterback, Ashton Daniels, will be healthy by then, but Damon Claiborne, to me, is the most underrated back in the country. So it's a tough game. Duke's been killing people. And then at NC State with CJ Bailey. I mean, let's see. 1, 2, 3.
Duke hasn't been killing people, D. They
killed 18. They killed 18. They killed 18.
Okay,
they killed 18. But let's see. I know they want to kill North Carolina. They're already circling that game. So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 potential losses on the schedule. It could be a 4-8 season for Bill Belichick. He's not used to the ACC Coastal, man. He's not used to this level of competition.
The Coastal no longer.
Old school ACC Coastal.
Yeah.
He's not used to this level of ball. I think the level.
Miami hasn't been used to it for 20 years. So, shoot, we're just getting now used to it. Maybe give Belichick a couple more years. He'll be all right.
904 says you should get Logan Robinson from Noel Game Day on the show. Have a conversation about Miami FSU, one of the most logical and reasonable Noel fans. Yeah, we did that last year. We haven't really been bringing the opposing fans on too much.
No, that's not true. That's not true. We've done it every single week. Notre Dame, we had the Golick and Jess.
Oh, true.
USF, we had Josh Appel and Tito Benach. We actually had 2.
That's true.
And Florida, we had Eric Esteban.
We just it's always our boys.
Yeah, we've been lucky. So we'll get it. We had Clay Fink on last year, and Clay was awesome.
He is good. Did he retire? I still see him tweeting.
No, he's kind of just, I think, doing his. Let me see. I don't know if he's doing his own thing now, but he's still covering the team very closely. I just don't think he's with Noel. He's not with Noel's 247 anymore. So we can you like him even better now.
let's get these guys. Yeah, we can
get 2. We can get 2. We can get Clay and we'll get. Because our boy 904 Hurricane wants us to get Logan Robinson. So I'll look into getting Logan Robinson as well.
Yeah, that's a good deal right there. I like that idea. Nico Jones saying Aller preseason hype should be felonious. Drew Aller, Pete, where are you on? And we talked about it before, but
I talked about this with Ahmon last week. Was it Ahmon? No, it was with Steve Kim on Thursday. I literally said last week before the Oregon game, I said that he is the best PR agent in the world. And I was just laughing at the story that came out the week of the game, like when he already wasn't having a tremendous season that Pete Thamel did. And it was like the most dramatic headline about, can he etch himself as the next first round pick from Penn State at quarterback? And it's just like, dude, I don't see the first round with him. I really don't.
I don't see the college quarterback with him. I mean, it's amazing, though. You look at his stats, and he's got 59. This is his first career. 59 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. I mean, that's phenomenal when you actually look at the stats. But I've never watched a game that this guy's played and been like, man, Drew Aller's dealing. I feel like he's just not a natural passer. Like, there's guys that are way shorter, way less arm strength that you're just like, wow, this guy's dealing. Kyle McCord, not small, but not as good arm as Aller. But you watch him play, you're like, man, this guy's he's passing, man. He's got a feel for it. I see no feel whatsoever with Drew Aller. It just never feels like he's in rhythm. And look, they say, all right, his receiver sucked. Well, the Wallace kid that he had last year is on Ole Miss right now with your boy Trinidad James Chambliss, and that guy's getting like 100 yards a game. He did not get a catch in his last game with Drew Aller. And now,
how's our boy Trevor Pena doing over there?
I mean, they didn't do much passing in this last game. I'll tell you
15 catches, 182 and a touchdown this year. I mean,
yeah, nothing. So Harrison Wallace, who, remember, this was the guy that we saw it in the championship, in the playoffs, they had 0 catches from the receivers, right, in the game. So Harrison Wallace, one of those receivers, their number 1 receiver. Look at his game. So I guess the last 2 games he's been a little down, but he had 117 yards against Kentucky, 92 yards against Arkansas, 130 against Georgia State, which is kind of the easy game. But he's playing ball. He's got 361 yards, 2 touchdowns. So
Bleed Orange and Green says, I've also never seen James Franklin in rhythm. I'll tell you this. Please don't let James Franklin go to Florida. Please don't let James Franklin go to Florida. He's a heck of a coach. He's another one that I don't understand the can't win the big game thing. They are in the top 10 every darn year.
I would say he's an elite coach. That whole thing, I don't buy that for 1 second. Penn State what's Penn State's legacy? They're a pedophile program. Like, they're not a program that you just plug in and have great success. they're behind Ohio State and Michigan historically. So yeah, they lose to them now. They lost to them before. They're not that good. I mean, look at this guy. So he took over a 7-5 team from, first of all, James Franklin won 9 games twice at Vanderbilt. We're seeing Vanderbilt's resurgence now. He won 9 games twice at Vanderbilt. Then you look at, he takes over a 7-5 team from Bill O'Brien, a couple of years removed from Sandusky. I mean, when James Franklin took over, it was 2014. Sandusky was 2011. So, like, I mean, you were talking about the worst scandal in sports history, pretty close by, and the team 7-5. And this is what he does: 7-6, 7-6. Then boom, 11 wins, 9 wins, 11 wins. COVID, had a bad year in 21. Then back to 11, 10, and 13. I mean,
that's crazy.
What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? And that, like Eric Kane says, in the middle of nowhere, it's tough to recruit. Pennsylvania doesn't have the players it once did. A lot of,
please don't let him go. Don't let him. I don't want him to go to Florida. So I said this about Lane. I don't want Lane to go to Florida. Go hire Summerall from Tulane. Go hire another G5 guy.
Kenny, I would say Dillingham would be a one I would target. I know he's an alum at Arizona State, but that would be probably a good one for Florida to target if I'm them. Mm-hmm. Kiffin obviously could be very successful. Could not be, though. Could not. I mean, Ole Miss has really got more money than people think. Like, Ole Miss is not a poor program.
But it's you know what? The only thing I would have thought that too, the way they spend in the portal, D. But I was talking about this with Brett McMurphy last year when we were in Tampa with him, and he really thought last year that Lane would eventually be the guy at Florida, because he says that Ole Miss as a school does not have infrastructurally does not have the money. Now, NIL wise, that might be a different situation. Boosters come together, but like, I just think that my thing with Lane about why, yes, I agree, it may not work, but he's proven year after year he can compete in the SEC, like compete relatively with what he has right now. But they're in the mix they're there every year. Like in the playoff conversation, in the SEC championship conversation. And yes, a lot of it is you can drop 2 games and 3 games sometimes and still be in the conversation. But I don't want him going there. He's proven he can win there in the SEC.
Yeah, and look, it's almost a good place for coaches. I mean, like the last coach, Matt Luke struggled, but Matt Luke wasn't a good coach. Hugh Freeze, he made his name at Ole Miss. He had the opportunities to really help his career there. So
Signetti's another one. I don't want to get that job.
Yeah, I don't see that one. Florida's been a graveyard for coaches. I mean, think about it. So you had Steve Spurrier, who obviously he was their signature guy. Then you had Ron Zook, never did anything worthwhile again. I think he went to Illinois, but Zook, his career got smoked at Florida. Then you had Urban Meyer, obviously great. He was going to be good wherever he went. He was a stud. But then after Urban, McElwain, career got completely steamrolled. Muschamp, career completely steamrolled. I guess the order was different. Dan Mullen, career completely ruined there because he couldn't recruit. Now Billy Napier is a bum. So they've killed a lot of coaches there since Steve Spurrier. Aside from Urban Meyer, like Tommy Cruz says, it's a swamp for coaches. Besides Urban, who I think Urban would have been successful anywhere. He was undefeated at Utah. No one's done anything at Florida. It's not the easiest job in the world. Yes, it's Florida, but you're recruiting against Miami, who's the best recruiting school right now in the state by far. Florida State's there. UCS getting a couple guys. Georgia's going to recruit in Florida. Alabama's going to recruit in Florida. Clemson's going to recruit in Florida. There's not as much talent in North Central Florida where the Gators are as opposed to South Florida, and even that's down. Florida's down in general, or at least has been for a few years, like the state. So you have no ties in IMG. I mean, what's the last IMG kid to go to University of Florida? So it's
I haven't studied their classes like that,
but I can't think. I mean, there's no one on the roster that went to IMG, so it's not like, yes, theoretically you can get great players at Florida. It's a flagship school in the country, but in practice, it's not an easy job, man. Like if
they have a commitment this year, interior offensive lineman, Genevre Carr.
Right, yeah, and the guy we didn't recruit, I think Harris, the guard, who we also didn't recruit, that's a starting guard for them from IMG, but they're not getting the dudes. Those guys are going to Alabama or Miami or Georgia, so or somewhere else. So they're really not getting it done. Yeah, but Mullen is turning it around. We're the biggest UNLV fans in the offseason. We said this team's a sneaky playoff team, UNLV. And right now, 4-0, Pete. This is our team. We loved them. Calandria, Alex Orgy.
What's our boy Jake Pope from UGA, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if any of these guys are.
Yeah, Pope's
playing.
balling. Pope is balling. They're playing good ball. Justin Flo is out there playing pretty decent ball.
Tank Hawkins, another IMG player, receiver at Florida, who was a 4-star recruit.
Man, they're living by the seat of their pants here, UNLV. They won by 7. Then they had a big win against Sam Houston, another 7-point win against UCLA, and a 3-point win here at Miami, Ohio. So they got an easy schedule. They need to start separating a little bit, but hey, don't sleep on old Danny Mullen. He might make a run there at UNLV for the playoff. Real quick, Pete, before we go, want to talk about the Miami Hurricane team store. Promo code INSIGHT20. You already know. Get your load up on your shirts. I like this. The U is Beck. You got all the college game day stuff. CJ Daniels catch. Got some different kinds of Adidas gear, different kind of styles. Pretty much any flavor you want. Vintage, modern. You got the Flow Grown right there. I like that shirt. This is Canes Country. You got a lot of good stuff here to deal with. This one's a classic old school vintage with the old, I don't know what you'd call this logo, the guy catching in the middle of that old school deal. This is another old school shirt. So you got a lot of old school options, new school, basketball, baseball, football, everything you need at Miami Hurricane Team Store, MiamiHTS.com. Promo code INSIGHT20 in person across the street from the University of Miami. Miami Hurricane Team Store, that official spot for Miami Hurricane retail.
All right, D.
All right,
well, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, everybody. Tomorrow we will be back with our Wednesday Mike Ryan show. We've been a little thrown off there the last couple of weeks. Haven't done it in studio, so we'll keep you guys updated on the timing of that. Go Canes.
Go Canes.